Welcome to INSZN's College Football Show. This is our Week 11 preview. We have 6 games that we have highlighted. We're going to go through, look at, starting with the biggest game of the weekend, College Game Day, BYU versus Texas Tech. I'm Braxton Wilkes. I'm joined here with co-founder Christian Berry, and let's just get right into it. So BYU, Texas Tech, number 8 and number 9 respectively in the AP poll, number 3 and number 5 in our adjusted quadrant resume ranking poll, which basically just looks at the resumes of each team, takes out all subjective biases, media bias, media narrative, preseason polls, anything like that. So a big top 5 AQR matchup happening in Lubbock. Like I said, College Game Day is going to be there. The spread on this game right now is actually 10.5 in favor of Tech, and the over-under is 52.5. Kind of just early thoughts that you have going on anything? Do you want to just go right to in-season and pull up so we can talk about it all?
Yeah. Let's jump into it. I mean, my initial thoughts. You said 10.5 Texas Tech.
10.5 in favor of Tech. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm honestly a little shocked by that. I think BYU is a much better team than they've gotten credit for all season. I mean, they have a strength of record of 5. They're an okay offense in terms of the 33 and SP plus offensive ranking, which, I mean, take that as you will. Tech is better at both offense and defensive metric rankings, but BYU runs the ball with high efficiency. Texas Tech has stopped the run game with high efficiency. So I think that's going to be kind of the storyline we look at. I know that, Bear and Behren Morton have kind of led their offenses to solid records in a pretty, I'd say a pretty equivalent Big 12 season this year. And they've, been able to take strides and win most of their games, not all their games, in Texas Tech's perspective in the Big 12. I think the answer here is going to be who's able to run the ball effectively. If we look on a week-by-week basis, BYU gets about 220 yards on the ground and about 220 yards through the air. And I think that's going to be kind of the storyline, is if Texas Tech is able to pull the run game away, forcing BYU to go through the air, relying on Bear to kind of have to make all of his plays. And I'm going to go ahead and just go to Bear's profile so we can
pull that up. Because that's I think you're right. The quarterback story for both is going to be the story of this game. Bear, doesn't light up any stat sheets, but man, he's fun to watch. He plays hard, and he leads that team even as a true freshman. So a great find for them, pulling him out of Stanford in the offseason and bringing him here, starting at BYU as a true freshman, leading them to I think one of their best starts ever. And this is actually their first, this is the BYU's first top 10 matchup that they're a part of. So really? This is going to be phenomenal. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And I when I look at Bear's stats, and let me, so you can see all the headline grades down there. When I look at Bear, he doesn't have to pass the ball for, 300 plus yards to win a game. He's only done that twice this season against West Virginia, and then most recently last week against Iowa State. What he does, though, which I want to point out, is he's highly accurate when he throws the ball. He's not making a ton of turnover-worthy plays. He's putting the ball to the second and third option effectively, but he's not doing a lot of, these, forcing the ball down the field, forcing the ball into these different defensive schema. So I think if I look at this game and I say, hey, let's force BYU to remain undefeated, what is Texas Tech going to have to do? If you take away the run game, which Texas Tech has been pretty effective at this year, forcing Bear to make decisions, and if they can get him a little off kilter from what he's done this season, I think that it's going to be a closer matchup than not. But I have BYU having a little bit of upset territory here just because of their quality of their record this year, how they've been able to score against multiple different types of defensive schema, and just a highly accurate, highly consistent quarterback in Bear.
Yeah, no, I agree. Their strength of record, obviously they're 8-0, but that Utah win looks better and better. And both Tech and BYU have a win against Utah. Sure. I think Utah is probably the third best team in the Big 12. Yeah. There's probably a gap between teams 3 and 4. And it's just unfortunate for Utah that they had to play both these teams that are really solid. The other kind of thing I wanted to highlight in this game, Behren Morton obviously has been hurt. He's back now, played in that game against Kansas State. I'm looking for him to kind of get back to that form that he had early on. Obviously, Tech can put up points, and when they kind of get on a roll, they put up points very fast. So if I'm Tech, I'm looking to kind of score early and often and get that offense rolling, get Behren Morton into a kind of rhythm and let him get in the zone, and then just let the offense do their thing. The other thing that Tech does really well is they force a lot of fumbles. And I know that's something on the broadcast this past weekend, the Texas Tech Kansas State game, they were talking, I think they had 4 or 5 forced fumbles. A few of them were called back. I don't know what a catch is anymore. I don't know what a football move is anymore. There's so many questions, but a few of them were called back. A few of them they let stand. But 4 or 5 times the ball was on the turf because Tech was ripping the ball out right at
they forced 10 fumbles this season. 10 interceptions, 10 fumbles. That's pretty good in terms of defensive impacting the game if the offense is not there, which I think is why they've been able to win games without Behren Morton, because their defense is able to actually produce a lot of those turnovers and flip the scripts and flip the definitions of the game itself.
Yeah, exactly. No, they take the ball away at a really high rate, and then when their offense is really humming, they score really fast too at a high rate. So This will be a fun game. I think it'll be closer than 10.5. I think this will be a game that everyone, the whole country's watching, and it'll be a fun one to showcase kind of Big 12 football. So I'm excited for that. For our next game, I want to go over to stay in the Big 12. I want to talk about Iowa State against TCU. TCU currently is not ranked in the AP poll. They're number 24 in the AQR resume ranking. So basically 24th best resume when we look at who they've played, quad 1, 2, 3, 4 games, home, away, neutral site, all of that. And then margin of victory goes into that equation as well. So the spread on this, TCU is at home. They are -6.5, and the over-under is 57.5. So Vegas expects a close game with this one. I mean, that seems like all Iowa State does is play close games. So I'm also excited for this one as well. But like we said earlier, let's get right into this. So tell me what you're seeing for this.
Well, first, let me ask you, what would you have 4 weeks ago? What would you have previewed this game? What would be kind of your thoughts on TCU's -6.5?
I don't know if I would have expected it. I mean, I think early on, it looked like TCU was just going to roll through things. I still think they're a top 4 or 5 team in the Big 12, and I think that as the end of the year comes up, it's going to show that they're a top 4 or 5 team. But
that was Iowa State was kind of what did they peak at? Maybe because they've lost 4 in a row now. I think they peaked at 11th, 12th in the country.
Right. Yeah. They started out, probably top 15, 16, just with all the pieces they brought back in the preseason polls. Obviously, they played that game in Dublin against Kansas State and kind of had the first win of the year. But you're right. They have fallen off. Not that they're really getting run out of any of these games.
No, not at all. They're losing close matchups.
They're losing close matchups. They've played, let's see, their most recent games. Yeah, they played Cincinnati, Colorado, BYU, and Arizona State. So other than Colorado, kind of probably the top 4 or 5 other teams in the Big 12 that they're playing. Kind of an unfortunate grind for them. But yeah, I think this matchup 5 weeks ago, if it's week 5, week 6, it's probably what I'm thinking, 10.5 in favor of Iowa State, if not more. And I would have loved that spread for TCU because I feel like for some reason they have not gotten the love from the national media or Vegas or anyone. So yeah, this is not what you would have expected looking forward a month from today, but yeah, it looks like this is going to be a good matchup. And again, Iowa State seems to play lots of close games.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out, kind of when I'm thinking about this game, one, I think TCU is going to win this game because TCU's warming up. They kind of sputtered a little bit to start the season. Good win against Baylor, kind of a solid win against Baylor. They're warming up a little bit, and Iowa State's kind of following the opposite direction. They've cooled off significantly from their 5-0 start. And when you really look at where the issues lie for Iowa State, it's their defense. I think their defense has drastically underperformed expectations in a Big 12 that this year they're good at offense. It's not, the Big 12 we saw 10 years ago when you had like the Baylor's, West Virginia's, et cetera, putting up 50, 60 points a week. But one thing I do see is their coverage defense and pass rush defense is at the bottom 35, 40 percentile of all D1 teams. And when you have a quarterback-driven conference like the Big 12, what we're seeing from Iowa State is their inability to stop those quarterbacks from, affecting the game, forcing teams to actually run the ball or forcing teams to change up their game plans. And look, I think Josh Hoover's a highly accurate quarterback. He doesn't do a lot of turnover-worthy plays. He's looking to his second or third option. He has good deep ball range. He's able to, scramble out of the pocket a little bit, less than some of the other quarterbacks in the Big 12, but overall a very consistent, top to bottom quarterback. And so I think that Iowa State's going to have a lot of trouble defending TCU's receiving core and especially what Hoover's going to be able to do against them. So I think that's going to be kind of the storyline is, can Iowa State's defense turn it around a little bit, tighten up their coverage, maybe if they have to drop 6 or 7 into coverage to try to protect more of the medium to deep balls. That's one thing I'm looking out for. But just given the track record of the direction that Iowa State's going right now in terms of what their defense is capable of actually stopping in the Big 12, I seem to think that that's going to be a little bit of an issue for a TCU team that has a pretty consistent and pretty efficient offense overall.
Yeah, no, and just looking at Josh Hoover really quick.
Sure.
Obviously, he's in the Big 12. Is the conference of quarterbacks who junior, senior quarterbacks that are leading the nation in a lot of categories. Josh Hoover just happens to be one of them. He's at 185 for 285, basically 65% completion percentage. Accuracy percentage, I'm sure, is higher than that. He's at almost 2,400 yards.
Yep.
22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. The one thing, and then two touchdowns on the ground as well. Yep. The one thing I really wanted to point out for him is how important it will be for him to protect the ball. There are 2 losses against Arizona State and K-State.
That's right.
Both of those games, he had 2 interceptions. They lost the turnover battle, and that seemed to kind of be the story for both of those games, was just that they were not able to protect the ball. So that's what I'm looking for in Josh Hoover is, man, keep taking your shots, keep doing your thing, but protect the ball and allow us to just, establish the run, establish play action, and then get the ball into the hands of your playmakers like he does so well. Yeah. If I'm Iowa State, I'm trying to get those turnovers as early and often as I can, to disrupt him if I can, so that he maybe makes a mistake and we can capitalize on points for that. So
fully agree. And that just pointing out the Arizona State and the Kansas State losses that they've had this season, they're kind of anomaly games for Hoover in terms of accuracy, in terms of yards, in terms of interceptions, et cetera. So if Hoover plays how he has in, 80% of the games this year, which is, having the high throwing IQ, having high accuracy, and utilizing his deep pass, he's one of the top 10 percentile deep passers in Division I this year. Utilize that. I think that TCU will hum to another win against Iowa State, but Iowa State's able to effectively change their schema and prevent a lot of that, get pressure to the quarterback, could be a different story, but that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I agree. So that is our Big 12 preview, or the Big 12 portion of our preview. If you're a BYU fan, Texas Tech fan, Iowa State, TCU fan, comment, like, subscribe, follow. Check us out on X, Instagram, and then check out INSZN.co or INSZNCFB.com. Both of those will get you to this site. You can play around. If you ever have questions, comment here. reach out to us. We're happy to answer any questions and kind of show off the platform as much as we can. All right, now let's move on to the SEC. There are a few matchups I wanted to look at there. First one, Texas A&M and Missouri. This is a game that is at Mizzou. They are the underdogs at home, +7. The over-under is 49.5. Texas A&M obviously is one of 4 undefeated teams left in the country. They're phenomenal. They've been phenomenal all year. Marcel Reed has played as one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country and has kind of led that team. But I know Missouri has a good defense, so I'm excited to get there, or get a chance to watch this game and see what happens. Kind of your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the highest level thought is this year Missouri has been able to take away run games from teams. Yeah. And that's where they've been most effective in terms of forcing teams to be a little bit more one-dimensional. On the converse, A&M has made up, as good as Marcel Reed is, their run game is phenomenal. They're averaging about 200 yards a game on the ground, about 2.4 touchdowns per game on the ground. They average about 40 attempts running the ground per game. So this is a team that has a great quarterback that is allowed to use the run game to kind of change up the different threats and different schemas that defenses have to put up against them. And so I think this is going to be pretty interesting to see, does Texas A&M go to a more pass-heavy type offense this weekend? Do they use a lot of play action? Do they try to trip up the defense a little bit and disguise, run plays, pass plays, etc.? And how is Missouri going to respond against that? That's kind of my highest level thoughts. I think, Marcel Reed and Bo, solid quarterbacks. They, have led their teams to pretty good records this year. They're pretty consistent. I mean, they make some plays that, are a little bit more questionable in terms of their turnover worthiness. But Marcel Reed being a dual threat type quarterback really opens up the playbook for Texas A&M to try a bunch of different stuff against Missouri. But, at the end of the day, Missouri is able to stop the run at high effectiveness. And so I think that's going to be kind of the storyline I look at.
Yeah, no, you're right. This is good on good in terms of good rush attack versus good rush D, and really just good defense overall. That's going to be the question. That's what's going to keep Missouri in this game, especially with Bo Pribula down for the season, kind of third string in now, Matt Zollers. It's going to be the Mizzou defense is going to keep them in this game and give the offense opportunities. Kind of reminds me of the Notre Dame game that Texas A&M has already played, where the rush D is of Notre Dame is just as good as Missouri's run defense, and they both give up around 90 rush yards a game. Limit teams to less than one rush touchdown per game. So kind of for me, looking at the way that Notre Dame attacked Marcel Reed and that Texas A&M offense, that's what I'm expecting out of Missouri and how they would attack it. And in that game, Texas A&M was forced to throw the ball a lot. I think 37 attempts for Marcel Reed. He had 360 yards. A lot of those were just getting the ball in Casey Concepcion or any of their stud receivers hands and let them take it to the house. So I think this will be a good matchup. If I had to guess, I think it's the +7's probably about accurate in terms of Mizzou's going to keep it close. Mizzou's going to keep it close, and I would say this is going to be under. I mean, I don't know how you look at Texas A&M's offense compared to like a Vanderbilt's offense, but that Mizzou kind of kept the game very close in that game. And I think that game ended up 14-7. So I could not be more high on this Mizzou defense.
Yeah, I think my final thoughts on this would be Mizzou is able to stay in this game with their defense if they're able to keep Texas A&M as a one-dimensional offense. If they're able to take away the run game and force Marcel Reed to make or break the game. On the converse, I think what keeps Missouri in this game from their offense is their ability to run the ball. And Texas A&M has a decent run defense, not as good as Missouri, but a decent run defense. But Missouri's averaging 240 yards on the ground per game, around 2.75 touchdowns on the ground per game. So this is going to be about, can Missouri take away the run game from Texas A&M and utilize their own run game? I think that's the only way this stays, in the grasp of Missouri to win the game. But I kind of agree with you. I don't think there's going to be a ton of points scored here, just because there's pretty clear direction for both defenses and how to stop the offenses on either side of the ball. So I think that's kind of going to be the storyline of the game. And Missouri, you said Missouri +7?
It's Missouri +7, and the over-under is 49.5.
Okay. Yep. I kind of agree with that line overall. I think probably if I had to bet on this, I'd probably pick under, and I'd probably pick Missouri to cover, just because there's kind of a very clear prescription of how they're going to stop Texas A&M from scoring the ball.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be a good game. It's going to be close. It's going to be closer than some people expect, probably, unless people who know ball and know Mizzou has a great defense. So, like we've said, follow, comment, like, subscribe, check INSZN.co out, and reach out to us if you ever have any questions.
Yeah.
Want to move on, stay in the SEC. Let's go over Alabama versus LSU. LSU obviously is coming off of the firing of Brian Kelly, the fourth or fifth coach fired in the SEC this year. Kind of been, all of them are dropping. I'm interested to watch this game because, one, I'm very high on LSU's defense as well, just like Missouri, but I'm also interested to see how they bounce back, and if we get kind of a
dead cat bounce,
dead cat bounce, new fired head coach bounce, exactly, to see if they can pick up the offense. Because really, when you look at how well LSU's defense has played all year, the limiting factor has been the offense. Mm-hmm. So, offensive coordinator is out the door, head coach is out the door. I'm interested to see how the locker room responds, and if they're able to kind of, dead cat bounce, fired head coach, fired offensive coordinator bounce, and keep up with Alabama. So let's take a look at that real quick.
Yeah, I just want to quickly, before we kind of jump into the scouting report, which previews our games on a metric by metric basis. One thing I do want to point out, to your point, is their defense has been solid. They're top, 75 percentile in overall defense, top 60, 70 percentile in overall defense. The offense has been what has really struggled. They're, bottom 40 percentile in their run, bottom 10 percentile in run blocking, bottom 50 percentile in pass blocking. So, looking at this from, the more high level perspective, LSU's offense has been their main issue this year. And when you have someone like Garrett Nussmeier, who you thought was going to be the answer to producing a lot of this offense, but when you have an offensive line that's been struggling, you've had receivers that have been struggling a little bit. And I know that injuries have played a lot into this. That's kind of the storyline that I'm thinking of for, what's happened with LSU this year. Why are they underperforming what we thought they would have done? Just kind of from more of a meta level. But if we actually jump into the data a little bit, look, Alabama has allowed, Alabama's defense is not perfect. They've allowed 150 yards on the ground per game, around 1.4 rushing touchdowns per game. Their passing coverage defense is pretty stellar. They're allowing about 160 passing yards per game, around one touchdown passing per game. So their coverage defense is pretty spectacular. Running defense has been a little bit spotty. So I think that's going to be kind of an interesting storyline to see, hey, is Alabama able to still take away the passing from Garrett and forcing like Durham to have to run the ball a lot? Or is it going to be kind of the same story we've seen all year with LSU's offensive woes?
Right. I agree. And kind of just talking briefly about Alabama's offense versus that LSU defense, they go with Ty Simpson. Yeah. And he has been an incredible kind of manager of the game, protected the ball, understands what they're trying to do offensively, gets the ball in the hands of their playmakers as fast as he can. He's able to kind of read defenses really well. I've been impressed with him more and more outside of really the Florida State game, which of course was not all on him. But outside of that first game of the year, he's played exceptional. And last 2 weeks, last 3 weeks, gone up against really pretty solid defenses.
Yeah.
And he has protected the ball, not turned it over, not tried to do too much. He's moved around in the pocket, and he's not taking sacks. And he's allowing them to kind of keep drives alive. So I'm expecting kind of the Alabama offense to continue what it's doing in terms of it goes as far as Ty Simpson will let them. And so
I would say, like, from an analytical perspective, Ty Simpson has had 2 outlier games this year in terms of accuracy, yards, decision making, IQ, pocket presence, ability to get in and out of the pocket efficiently in blitz formations and pressure pass formations, etc. There's been 2 outlier games. It was FSU, which was his first game of the year. You can kind of chalk that up to a couple different things. And then last weekend against South Carolina, and a team that they probably should have beaten by, obviously more than a touchdown. But there's only been 2 outlier games. Other than that, he's one of the highest accuracy quarterbacks in the country. In the mid 70 percentile in terms of accuracy, which is very high. He protects the ball. He goes to that second and third option. He doesn't force a lot of passes. And I think one thing you see when you look at from an analytical perspective, completion rate is attempts over completions. So, how many balls are caught that are thrown. Accuracy is a little bit of a different metric. It's regardless of the ball, if the ball's caught or not, was that a good pass and should the receiver have caught it? Those are the only 2 considerations with accuracy. One thing Ty Simpson does is he's accurate. And so he's not forcing the ball to turnover-worthy type plays. He's not forcing the ball to double, triple coverage. He's making the smart play, and doesn't all the time, relate to his completion rate. It's good, but not great. But the accuracy is kind of what I'm holding on, and his ability to throw that deep ball, his ability to kind of also utilize more screen type plays. And so I think Ty Simpson's probably just going to continue what he's done all season, take away the 2 outlier games, and have a pretty effective game against LSU.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the question early on for Alabama in terms of offensively is whether or not they can establish some type of run.
Yeah.
Because if they can establish that run game, maybe LSU's forced to load the box, and that pass rush defense is not as scary, doesn't get in the face as much as of Ty Simpson as much, and allows him to kind of get comfortable in the pocket and make some good decisions.
That's where he hits that deep pass.
Exactly.
I mean, he's great on those, what I call playmaking ability, which is passes that are 20 plus yards down the field.
Right.
Top 10 percentile on that in the country this year.
Yeah. No, so perfect. All right. So if you're an Alabama fan, LSU fan, college football fan, SEC fan, any type of fan, please follow, comment, like, subscribe. Check out INSZN.co. We're going to keep moving on. We're going to go over to last SEC game that we want to look at, Georgia versus Mississippi State. We'll talk about it briefly, just because Mississippi State had their first SEC win in 2 years last week against Arkansas. I know everyone down in Starkville is excited. This game, the spread's 7.5 right now in favor of Georgia. Over under is 56.5. Just briefly wanted to touch on this, talk about this, and all of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I just want to first hit on Mississippi State getting their first SEC win. It's felt like a long road. 1 touchdown loss against Tennessee, a 2-point loss against Florida, and then the brutal loss against Texas. So it's nice to have that first SEC win, rip the Band-Aid off. Look, it wasn't a great Arkansas team. But, can you use that momentum to try to finish out the rest of your SEC play well? You have Georgia this weekend, Missouri the following weekend, and then Ole Miss after the bye week. So, I mean, I think that, Mississippi State needed this first SEC win. There's a lot of issues that Mississippi State has faced this year. They've allowed a lot of points. They've had very poor pass rush defense, so it allows the quarterbacks they play against to sit in the pocket a little bit longer than they normally would, allowing them to look at those second and third options, allowing them to hit the deep ball. So just from that perspective, that's what I'm looking at from Mississippi State. But look, overall, I think that this is going to be a closer game than we think. Mississippi State plays close games. I just want to take a look at Georgia offense versus what Mississippi State defense has allowed. There's a lot of parity here. Mississippi State's pretty good at thwarting, passing yards per game. They've only allowed 206, and Georgia's only put up about 230. Same with rushing. Mississippi State does allow a lot of yards on the ground, 166. Georgia does put up a lot of rushing yards on the ground per game, 184. So there's a lot more parity in this game from, what is the defense specialized in protecting? What does the offense specialize in doing from the Georgia offense, Mississippi State defense perspective? But I think really at the end of the day, what's going to be kind of the more defining factors, what is Mississippi State able to do through the air? What are they able to put on the ground in terms of their offense? If I look at just the SP Plus rankings for both teams, Mississippi State's 42 in offense, 43 in defense. Georgia's 14 in offense, 17 in defense. So there's just one team that has clearly been better this year across most of the main metrics. And I would expect that Georgia wins this game this weekend. But I wouldn't count Mississippi State out because of their ability to thwart a lot of the different defensive schemes and make Georgia remain one-dimensional.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think if Mississippi State is able to get Georgia off the field early and often, and Georgia is not able to sustain drives, Mississippi State's offense is tough to stop. Blake Shapen has played incredible so far. Yeah. In that Texas game, Arkansas game last week, he's putting up numbers. And if Georgia is able to sustain drives and hold onto the ball, and the time of possession battle starts getting skewed in the way of Georgia holding on the ball, yeah, I think that Georgia probably runs away with this game. But if Mississippi State is able to get them off the field early, put Gunnar Stockton into third and long situations where you're not as worried about the run, you can kind of have some type of pass rush. I think that this could be a really close game, and so. I don't know if I was guessing, Mississippi State plays all of these games tough. They play close, 7.5 at home. I would lean that way. I know you would lean the other way. Over under. This could be a game that Mississippi State puts up a lot of points, Georgia puts up a lot of points, and it becomes kind of a shootout. And Georgia's been
similar to the Texas game is kind of the perspective you have.
Exactly. So I think that this could be an interesting game. I'm excited to watch it. I'm excited. Saturday can't come soon enough. Hopefully YouTube TV and ESPN can figure it all out, and I can actually watch at home. So if you're a Georgia fan, Mississippi State fan, comment, follow, like, subscribe. Check out INSZN.co as often as you can. We're updating it constantly and adding new features. So it's always cool to just wake up in the morning and check what we've added, because we are not sleeping. We are adding as much as we can. Last game I wanted to go over to the Big Ten, Oregon versus Iowa. This is a ranked matchup in the AQR. Iowa, for some reason, and I think this is one of the big misses for the AP poll this week. Iowa is not ranked in the AP poll this week, but they are number 25 in our AQR. Oregon is number 6. So just looking at pure resume, taking out preseason polls, media narratives, anything like that, this is a ranked matchup. The spread is 5.5, and the over/under right now is 43.5. So let's talk some Big Ten football real quick.
Yeah, so I think that this game kind of highlights for me what I thought, a Pac-12 versus Big Ten matchup would look like when Oregon moved over to the Big Ten. This is offense versus defense. Dante Moore's been pretty phenomenal this year, throwing the ball. They're averaging around 250 passing yards per game. Highly accurate passer. They're getting around 2.5 passing touchdowns per game. They're putting up about 500 total yards per game. This Oregon's offense is clicking right now. Now on the other side, Iowa's defense has been pretty stout, as it has been for as long as I can remember. They're 7th in SP Plus defensive ranking. They're only allowing about 240 yards total per game. They're able to effectively stop the run. They're able to effectively stop the pass. So I think this is going to be your very classic, what I would have called a couple years ago, the Pac-12 versus Big Ten type matchup. And I'm super excited that we're starting to get these now that all the Pac-12 teams have moved over to the Big Ten. We actually kind of get to see it live. We don't have to wait for a bowl weekend. So those are my high-level thoughts. It's going to be offense versus defense, but happy to break into anything a little bit more specific if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. This reminds me a lot of the Iowa State versus Iowa game.
Yeah.
Big 12 versus Big 10. I think the difference is Oregon does everything just a little bit better than Iowa State does in terms of offensively, better passing, better rushing, probably better defensively as well, kind of what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So this should be a game that Oregon comes away with it.
Sure.
I do know it's hard sometimes going from the West Coast to, the Midwest and playing Iowa, and Iowa always seems to have one of the best defenses in the country.
Yep.
So it probably is going to be close just because not a whole lot of points will be scored. The other thing I wanted to talk about just briefly about the Big Ten in general, there's 6 teams that either have no losses in the Big 12 or Big Ten or one conference loss.
Yep.
So the Big Ten really, I know Indiana, Ohio State, even Oregon have kind of been top 5, top 10 teams all year.
Kind of dominated. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is anyone's ball game in terms of who's going to win the conference and actually be playing in that conference championship game.
Yeah, absolutely. Michigan and USC have just been I haven't heard a lot from them because of their recent losses, but they're under the radar. They're both one-loss Big Ten teams this year, and Iowa's sitting with them at one loss in the Big Ten this year. So I think it's pretty interesting. Iowa's problem is their offense. They're just not able to score as effectively. And Oregon, I think, has a pretty good defense. So I think that's going to be the other storyline of the game is if Iowa can get any sort of offense working against Oregon and able to rely on what they've been good at this season, which is that defensive coverage. I mean, just quickly looking at percentiles, top 85 percentile in coverage, top 97 percentile in pass rush defense, and top 85 percentile in run defense. They're able to effectively stop offenses. If they can get anything clicking offensively on their side, could be a closer game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to be not just getting something clicking, but honestly, some offense through the defense. I wouldn't be surprised if Iowa was able to put them in really good situations by coming up with turnovers, taking the ball away, coming up with some solid special teams play to give the offense a better chance of scoring. And the games that they've really scored some points, it seems like a lot of those points are coming off of turnovers.
Flipping the field, 10 interceptions this year. It looks like 2 fumble recoveries this year against a Dante Moore that is not perfect in terms of protecting the ball and preventing turnover-worthy plays. He has, I want to say, 4 interceptions this year. So that could be a storyline as well if Iowa's defense is able to effectively turn the field.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that's kind of what I'm looking for. It's if you're Iowa, it's the same blueprint as that Iowa State game. Try to obviously just score more points at the end, but try to limit the offense's ability to sustain drives, get them out early, get some takeaways, turnovers, rely on that defense, rely on that pass rush and that solid coverage to get some takeaways and set up the offense in, good situations.
More favorable field positions. Yeah,
exactly.
More with them.
All right. Well, that is the end of INSZN's College Football Show for Week 11. Like I've said before, follow, like, subscribe. If you're a Big Ten fan, Oregon, Iowa, just a fan of college football in general, follow, like, subscribe, comment, check out INSZN.co, and we are updating it constantly. So check it every day, every morning to see what we've been doing while we don't sleep at night.
Yep. And if you have any questions or any features you want added, leave a comment below and I will put it on the docket. I look forward to it.
Perfect. Thank y'all. We will see you next week.